Productive and counterproductive behaviors in the workplace assignment. In recent years, organizations all over the world have been impacted by a global pandemic caused by COVID-19. COVID-19 causes respiratory symptoms, but other parts of the body can also be affected. As organizations scramble to plan and implement policies and procedures around COVID-19, organizational psychologists have been tasked with researching the disease's broad-reaching impacts. Other than health consequences and mortality rates, it's too soon to know the full impact of the pandemic on the workplace, so this brings forth a great opportunity for IO researchers to begin researching in different areas than they had prior to the pandemic. Currently, there are research topics pertaining to COVID-19 that are being researched, such as occupational health and safety, which would be job stressors and demands, job strain, health outcomes. Then there's also work and family issues, such as work and family conflict, gender inequities, and also caregiving. There's telecommuting, which would focus on flex time, flex place. Flex time would be having a flexible schedule where you could schedule to work different hours. Flex place would be being able to work in different places, such as working from home or working from the office. With telecommuting, there would also be remote work, and there's also the field of boundary management that needs to be researched. In virtual teamwork, which would be virtual collaborations, communication technology, there would be research on job insecurity, job loss, economic insecurity, and then precarious work, that would be gig work, social protections for gig work. Leadership would be crisis leadership, leadership development, how that looks with a pandemic. There will also be human resources policies that need to be researched, such as training and upskilling, and also implementing health and wellness policies conducive to the situations arising because of the pandemic. Also, aging workforce needs such as retirement or age discrimination policies would need to be researched, and also careers in general, which would be career counseling or career development, and also career choice. The resulting outcomes from COVID-19 are still being determined. The pandemic has and will continue to have long-lasting and wide-reaching impacts to work-related processes. COVID-19 has definitely changed the way the work is understood, carried out, and organized. And IO researchers will be able to help shape how work will look in the future, be able to encourage policies and practices that may potentially make sure that organizations are ready for future waves and variants of COVID-19 or other pandemics to come. The next few slides will describe the socialization process for graduate students in my program, and will determine whether the program is successful in socializing newcomers or creating job embeddedness. Socialization is about learning to do your job well and get along with others and learn the culture of the organization. In this slide, I like to discuss the socialization for grad student programs by discussing the 6 dimensions of organizational socialization. The first category will be history. And for history, you can actually go to the graduate school links to see the admissions or degree information for students. It's an easy to use website that allows you to get information about the history and information about the customs and traditions of the university. You can also watch videos about the school and the program. The second category would be language. You can look to the syllabus to get specific information about terminology. You can also look to the rubrics. It's very helpful in defining class-specific language. Politics. There's a clear outline of expectations for behavior and how to get things done through looking at the honor code and applying those principles. You can also look at the syllabus, rubrics, messages from your professor, and you can always use the access, you can also access information on Canvas about how to take care of the expectations for the program. The next category will be people. It's easy to establish good relationships with your professor or your other classmates through Canvas, through prayer boards, and opportunities to intern. Organizational goals and values. You get to learn the goals and values through the Liberty Way. Also, you're able to assimilate them into your own program, where you're able to enrich your mind and expand your Christian beliefs. Performance proficiency is the ability to perform proficiently, or there are consequences if you are not adhering to the class syllabus or course guidelines and you're not completing your assignments in a timely fashion. Then you do have consequences, and so far as you are at fear of losing your aid or losing membership or even failing. And there is a process that you can go by to appeal, or you'll be on academic probation. So there are consequences for poor performance that are a way to check and balance people's behaviors. The program is successful in socializing newcomers and creating job embeddedness. Job embeddedness happens when individuals in an organization feel like there's a high level of fit in relation to themselves, the organization, and the community. And that creates a deep sense of loyalty to and connection with the organization. And leaving would be a huge sacrifice emotionally or financially if they were to leave. Now, it is hard to measure job embeddedness, but the program does create opportunities to make students feel a sense of belongingness. Even though it is an online program, there are discussion boards, and you're able to reach out to your classmates and professors through Canvas with ease. You also receive calls from admissions just to check on you to see how you're doing in your classes, if you need any assistance. And one of the major factors is the university does go out of its way to make sure that you feel like a part of the university. You're actually referred to as a part of the university. So there are things that you would give up by leaving, such as further continuing your development academically or spiritually. So people do choose to stay in the program due to feeling embedded in the program. The next topic is how can organizations reduce or prevent work-family conflicts? A work-family conflict is described as a bidirectional inter-role conflict in which the demands of one domain are incompatible with the demands of another domain. And work-family conflict can be detrimental to employees. It can cause decreased health, mental, physical, and spiritual health, creates feelings of burnout and job dissatisfaction, even life dissatisfaction. So it's important for organizations to really get a hold over the work-family conflicts in order to create a safe environment for their employees, where employees feel respected and feel supported, and therefore their job productivity and job performance will maintain good standards. To reduce or prevent work-family conflict, there are a few things that organizations can do. First, to reduce the work-family conflict within an organization, one of the main factors will be to actually change the organization's dynamics. If they're unsupportive, they can make it more supportive through policies that are created to be more family-friendly, such as promoting flexible schedules or telecommuting, or providing opportunities for employees to be able to create and maintain a healthy work-life balance, so where they're not feeling so stressed out that they're not able to perform at their top levels. To prevent work-family conflicts, one of the main factors would be to have a supportive management style. Again, that will support a healthy work-life balance, and it really allows all employees to share their work-family conflicts and offer family benefit options. And it also encourages those employees to manage their time better through reduced hours or change schedules. So the key to really reducing or preventing work-family conflict is for the organization to, as a whole, be more supportive. In this section, we'll be discussing what techniques you can use to adequately evaluate employee performance as comprehensively as possible using examples from Murphy's List. Murphy's List breaks down job performance in two categories. The first one is enroll, and that's task-oriented behaviors. Those are behaviors where you're performing major tasks associated with a job. The next category is extra role, and extra role would be interpersonally oriented behaviors, such as all interpersonal transactions that occur on the job. The next would be downtime behaviors, and downtime behaviors are those behaviors outside of the work that affect job performance, like having a second job or even substance use. And then there is destructive or hazardous behaviors, and those would be things like safety violations, sabotage, or even accidents. When evaluating job performance, one of the most important things to remember is that job performance is behavior. And there are a couple of common methods that you can use to evaluate job performance. The first would be rating performance on specific tasks, and that will go back to rating task-oriented behaviors, and those are specific to a person's role, and it's really important to base those on objective performance measures. And one of the suggestions here I would make is just to praise your employees for the positives, discuss ways to improve poor behaviors, but do consider factors that are outside of the employee's control, such as supply and demand issues, or even people who are in direct services when they are unable to really control or predict the behaviors of their clients. Also, you need to discuss ways to ameliorate those factors and do it in an environment that is not threatening. Another way to evaluate job performance would be to rate overall performance on the job. And in doing so, maybe one of the easiest ways to do that would be to do a pre-job performance survey to gather whether the employee really understands their job requirements, and ask them if there are any things that they need to perform their job better. Are there any things that they're struggling with? Any areas that they need retraining in? Ask them what's going well and what needs improvement. Assessing job performance really is a way to assess not only the employee's performance, but the way the organization is performing as well. It would also be optimal to perform these job performance evaluations on a monthly or at least quarterly basis to make sure that the employee is feeling supported and that they're competent in their job roles, but also just to do a overall check on the health of the organization as a whole. Here we will discuss organizational constraints and counterproductive behaviors. What are some common organizational constraints and how do they lead to counterproductive behaviors? An organizational constraint is a work condition that hinders an individual's job performance. Those could be either real or perceived, and constraints, they reduce employee engagement, reduce employee productivity, it can compromise team dynamics, lead to turnover or intention to turnover, and they can really cause some organizational cultural problems. Constraints can be something as simple as an employee not having access to working technology. For example, if their laptop is broken, then they're not able to log on to the systems and perform the tasks related to their job. And depending on how quickly the situation is remedied, or perhaps if it's not remedied quickly by the organization, then it would give the employee a sense of not being able to do their job function properly. If there are metrics that need to be made, then they're not able to meet those metrics. And depending on how the organization handles that, whether they give allowances to the employee for not being able to do their job due to not having access to the technology, could really cause a breakdown in the relationship between the organization and the employee. Another example of an organizational constraint would be low pay. If a person is working for an organization and they are not receiving a livable wage, it may cause employees to ponder stealing, and that is a huge situation where folks are at their jobs and they're going there and they're working, but then they're not able to make a livable wage. And though it is never okay in any situation to steal or be deceptive, some employees take that into their own hands because they feel as though they are not being, their needs are not being met by the organization, and then they, either because they don't have the things that they need, take things from the organization, or perhaps they feel some sort of animosity towards the organization and they take that out, or they get their retribution through stealing items or other deceitful practices. So how organizations interact with their each individual member of that organization really does depend and predict how the person will behave in that organization at some times. You've reached the end of the presentation. Thank you for your time. Here you'll find a works cited page full of articles that I found helpful in creating this presentation. Again, thank you for your time.